One thing that I have been focused on when it comes to XRP is just how it has been outperforming Bitcoin and even Ethereum this cycle. Now, when we think about that, it's also been causing a lot of hatred in the crypto communities. And I do think most of it does come from the Bitcoin maxi side. It reminds me back to even 2021 and 2020 and even prior cycles. I mean, listen, there's been so much hate for XRP for years now. It's a common thing, but recently I feel like it's just been ignited to extreme levels. But again, we've talked about this even when it comes to the lawsuit, right? The lawsuit, once it got announced, Vitalik was all over X talking about how, the SEC is finally going after XRP, this garbage coin, this, that, whatever. And I just don't know what XRP has done to these people. I don't know what kind of pain that, XRP or even Ripple caused to Bitcoin maxis or even the Ethereum maxis squad, but they absolutely hate XRP for no reason. Now, you could think that it's no reason, or you could think about it like this. XRP is a very, very large threat because XRP already this cycle has outperformed Bitcoin. It's already outperformed Ethereum as well, and it's not by just like a couple percentages. In fact, if we think about this, Ethereum is nearing about 100%. It's up about 63.5% in the last year. But XRP is actually up 400 plus percent. And at one point in time, it was 500% in one single year. So if we're really looking at this logically, I would be scared of XRP if I was an Ethereum maxi as well. Because number one, the network is 10 times more efficient. And in fact, it's actually way more efficient. If we think about it like this, let's go over here to what XRP Mickle just recently posted, because this is from the CME group report. We've gone over this, but XRP is 400 to 500 times faster than Bitcoin and 30 to 40 times faster than Ethereum. XRP is financial infrastructure, and this is coming from CME Group. They understand it. They get it, right? So if I was an Ethereum maxi or a Bitcoin maxi, and I was looking at all of the moves happening around crypto in the US about how all of these, enterprises and these companies are on board, and now the government is behind this entire technology, right? But they want this technology for payments and tokenization and things like that. Well, guess what? Ethereum still shines, right? It still has a lot of adoption around it. Tokenization, stablecoins, things like that. That's great, right? But for how long? I've talked about this on multiple occasions. I really do think that Ethereum is a ticking time bomb in terms of, the adoption slowing, the use slowing, and the dominance being usurped over to these other efficient networks, like, for an example, even the XRP ledger. I'm not biased. I don't think it's just going to be XRP. I think that there's some incredible technology in this space, but I think that the facts speak for themselves. And the facts are that XRP and the XRPL are, tens to hundreds of times more efficient than Bitcoin and even Ethereum. And this is exactly why it terrifies these maxi crowds. But what's even crazier about all of this is it goes back to even the original scope, which is Ripple's going after institutional players in the big banks. XRP was always called the banker's coin. In fact, it was ridiculed for being a banker's coin back in like 2017, 2018. And nowadays, Bitcoin maxis celebrate, players like, for example, Michael Saylor buying up massive supply amounts of Bitcoin, and also the ETF players like BlackRock pushing Bitcoin. If we think about how ridiculous that is, we were ridiculed for XRP being a part of the plan to make banks more efficient, to make finance more efficient, and for Ripple working with big banks, ridiculed for it because, it goes against crypto's original scope. And all of a sudden, BlackRock gets behind Bitcoin, big banks get behind Bitcoin, and it's celebrated. It makes absolutely zero sense. And by the way, the original view of crypto and Bitcoin being like this huge escape from the traditional system and the big banks, guess what? Bitcoin was not created by some rogue developer out there that wanted to see, traditional finance crash and burn. No, Bitcoin was created as a huge test to see how successful this could become. It was created by, I always say the government. I do think that the government had a hand in it. And also, big banks were a part of this journey from inception, I believe. I've talked about it on multiple occasions. And now when we think about crypto, everything's transparent, everything's on-chain. You can track on-chain transactions just from the wallet IDs. It's not some escape from traditional finance. It's not anonymous. I think that over time, all of that and all of the arguments around, oh, crypto was for this, it was originally for this, that all crashed and burned. So today, the argument from these maxis are just, it's ridiculous. But I bring all of this up because we've been seeing over the last couple weeks more and more FUD, and it's all from these big Bitcoin maxis. For an example, here we have from Mark Moss, okay, Chief Bitcoin Strategist. This is so funny, right? Ask yourself this. As the world races to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, leveraging debt and public equity markets, why would the XRP founders continue to sell? So this is because Chris Larsen, back in July, sold $200 million worth of XRP in the past 10 days. Still buying near the exit liquidity. Again, from a Bitcoin maxi. Here we have the facts. This is from Crypto Arsenal. Fun fact, the 80,000 Bitcoin being sold by Galaxy for its insider/whale client equates to 0.4% of circulating supply. The 117.5 million XRP that Chris Larsen recently moved to exchanges equates to 0.2% of circulating supply. But again, you don't hear about the top one. No, you just hear about XRP being sold. Oh yeah, Bitcoin, 80,000 Bitcoin being sold. Yeah, don't talk about that. Talk about XRP. This is why XRP is always a distraction away from what Bitcoin and Bitcoiners are doing. Like, it's crazy that they just use XRP as the scapegoat here. Like, it's crazy to me. And also, by the way, they're so mad when anything happens around XRP. Like, USA Today posted an article regarding how XRP is the smartest cryptocurrency to buy with $500 right now. A lot of people said, oh, it's just an ad or whatever. It doesn't matter what this is, right? It's the fact that it got posted, and all of a sudden, all of these people, like Laura Shin, by the way, Bitcoin Maxi again, she's also mad because Brad Garlinghouse didn't want to be on her show. In fact, a previous Ripple employee, Matt Hamilton, said, come on, Laura, it's been nearly a decade now. You can stop being hurt that Brad didn't want to come to your show. Because she's so upset that USA Today posted about XRP and how it was the smartest buy. It makes sense to me. XRP has outperformed Bitcoin and Ethereum this cycle so far. I think that it continues to do so. But also, we just heard from Caitlin Long. Now, I'm going to play this clip. It's about 3 minutes and 25 seconds long. We have just when you think the XRP army is done fighting Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple, Stuart Alderati. This is from Digital Asset Investor. We have from vet_x0. She has no clue what she is talking about, but she talks with such confidence about it. Ripple never did an ICO. XRP was worth nothing when the XRP ledger started, and all the 100 billion put into the Genesis account. The XRP ledger is decentralized. Either it's ignorance or a lack of education to still insist otherwise. There is nobody preventing you from joining the network run infrastructure or even fork the code base. We have 1,000 nodes and 100 plus of validators run by individuals and businesses, the same people you deny exist. Mind-boggling. Ethereum did an ICO. Bitcoin was taken to get Ethereum distributed to the initial investors. Ripple Payments uses the XRP ledger, and RLUSD is also issued on the XRP ledger. There's a lot of progress on the XRP ledger, growing business use cases, developers, functionalities via amendments, and a very deep liquid network supported by a native DEX. The very first DEX and tokenization platform in existence, the XRP ledger. And yes, this is facts. Listen closely to what Caitlin Long is saying, though.
Tether, and it looks like Ripple, the Ripple network is been blessed for a variety of reasons. If you're happy to push back on me about that, I'm just reading what I see. So I'm not. I bring it up, and everybody's like, "You're shilling for Ripple again." I'm not shilling for anything, folks.
I don't mind that. I think it overstates how important that network is. Part of the problem is the banks have always been suspicious of it,
right?
Because it is a centralized network, and the tokenomics are backwards, right? So one of the step back in creating these tokenization platforms, the people who extracted money up front are never going to be trusted, because everybody's going to look and think that anything that they do is an exit scam to try to dump on retail. Okay, the most effective tokenization platforms are the ones where there was no money up front or very little money up front, and that's Bitcoin and Ethereum. So it's really that simple. I don't think you're ever going to get the trust because of all that money that got raised up front. That was the first of the ICOs in their case. And that's, I mean, they've been at this longer than almost anybody else. And they haven't made a lot of progress. And now what did they try to do? Instead of trying to sell that into the banking industry, they're getting their own regulated financial institutions and trying to issue a stable coin. So that's kind of, in some ways, an admission that the base layer blockchain didn't get the adoption that they were looking for. Now, I will also say the Biden administration was a big part of that, right? By forcing it offshore and saying, you can't, basically, this is the SEC, Gary Gensler, trying to use that because it was the obvious case, since it was the first ICO, to say that was an illegal securities offering, right? And going after them. And that hamstrung them. It didn't hurt Ripple as much as the Fed hurt us, right? Everybody who was targeted by the Biden administration was hurt to varying degrees. So, but I'm acknowledging that for the XRP army that's going to come after me for saying something I think rational about it, that it's not going to take over. It's not. If it were going to take over, it would have taken over a long time ago. And now they've actually pivoted to issuing US dollar stablecoins on the network, which kind of tells you that they understand that the base layer network is not going to become the base layer of replacing SWIFT. And part of it is because of those tokenomics. But that said, I mean, I think part of the reason Ethereum is running, the price has run a lot, is because when the U.S. Treasury decides which permissionless network it's going to tokenize T-bills on, and by the way, they've, of course, not announced this. I'm speculating based on something that I heard. This is coming. They're not going to use Ripple. They're going to use Ethereum. They may use Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin layer 2s are not mature enough for something like that, right? They've got to think like a bank. And the most mature blockchain platform by far for this type of issuance is Ethereum. Solana's coming up, but it's so centralized, I don't know that the US government would want to take that risk.
Ah, yes. Let's tokenize on Bitcoin. Let's tokenize on Ethereum. All right, let's think about this logically. Trump already said that he wants to support US-backed crypto projects. Guess what? Ethereum is not US-backed. Ethereum is not even in the category US-backed, American-made crypto projects. But the craziest part about all of this is thinking, like, Caitlin Long just lost all credibility. The second we start to think about tokenization projects hitting Bitcoin, nothing is going to work on Bitcoin at scale for transactional use cases. I've said this a million times. It's not me being biased. It's not me being a Bitcoin hater. It's me being a tech. When we think about the technology here, it's just being factual about it, right? Being educated on the tech behind Bitcoin. It doesn't work for financial transactions at scale. Ethereum does not work for financial transactions at scale. We haven't seen Ethereum hit its peak use outside of one time back in 2022 when we saw the Bored Ape Yacht Club release the land token. It was an NFT that you can redeem and then also receive and purchase. There was also purchasing around it. The demand was so high at the peak of that a transaction for moving just $5. Okay, I send $5 to a friend or a family member. Guess how much that transaction would have costed you at peak time for Ethereum. You might say, all right, well, it couldn't be, more than a couple cents, right? I mean, why would you send $5 if you're, going to lose money on that transaction? Well, I mean, there's no way that it could have been that expensive. Guess how much it was? It was thousands of dollars to move $5. There was people paying $3,000 in gas fees simply just to claim their land tokens. Guys, I hate to break it to you, but no retail individual is going to use Ethereum for financial transactions. We keep hearing from Franklin Templeton behind tokenization that the main reason why they are using public blockchains is to save money. They do not want Ethereum. Yeah, sure, these use cases might be starting on Ethereum because it has the most amount of experience. All of what we're seeing around tokenization right now is testing. We will eventually see that all move over to other networks. We already started to see this with Hedera adoption. A lot of projects migrated from Ethereum over to Hedera and other efficient networks. This is not me being biased or a hater. Again, it's just speaking facts and being educated on the tech. These people like Caitlin Long and these maxis in this space, I don't know if they think that people just simply don't do their research. Like maybe they think, oh, somebody is going to listen to this and they're going to immediately think that XRP is useless. I don't know why XRP gets so much flack. I don't know why Ripple gets so much hate either. It's ridiculous to me. These people have no clue what they're talking about. They just constantly run their mouth. But it's at a time where I feel like if you really want to lock in, you need to realize what's happening in this space. We are witnessing tokenization taking off. We're witnessing stablecoin growth taking off. It's not going to happen at scale on inefficient networks. It's going to be happening on the most efficient networks. And just like Vet is saying here, yeah, the XRP Ledger was the first DEX and the first tokenization platform in existence in this space. And what Ripple is doing, listen, this is going to be one of the biggest crypto companies, Ripple, right? And the XRP Ledger and XRP, I do think that it's going to be one of the largest crypto-based networks and projects out there. It might take a little bit more time, but I really do think all of the puzzle pieces are coming together. If you think these maxis are hating now, it's only going to get worse, because I do think that XRP is going to continue to outperform Ethereum. I think it's going to continue to outperform Bitcoin, and I think XRP is going to be way bigger by the end of this year. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.